Welcome to Behind the Bower, where we bring you inspiring conversations, a fresh look at the arts in our community, and spotlights on the incredible artists, performers, collaborative partners, and organizations that make our creative world thrive. Through this podcast, we aim to celebrate the universal expression of human experience through arts, culture, and community. I'm your host today, Lauren Hood, Program Coordinator for Bower Center for the Arts. In this episode, we're diving into the world of landscape painting with one of our talented instructors, Lauren Gaunt. Lauren will share insights about her beginner landscape painting class, her journey as an artist, and what makes teaching this art form so meaningful. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning.
Hey, thanks for joining with me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're just going to jump right in with a little bit of an intro. So if you could just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you got into art.
Absolutely. So I am actually from Michigan. I moved here a couple years ago. I went to Kalamazoo College. It's a small liberal arts college where I studied art kind of broadly. They didn't have a specific painting sculpture program. So I did a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I've been pretty much making art my entire life, since I was in kindergarten. And I tried out all kinds of stuff. And my anecdote is that when I was 7 years old, I entered a drawing contest for a kids magazine and I won. And since then, I just my confidence soared. I was totally overconfident as a kid. I can do anything.
That's awesome.
So once I got into college, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe art isn't the right subject. I don't think I'll get paid for it. But after I took my first drawing class, I was like, okay, this is over. This is totally what I want to do.
Yeah.
And since then, I just have been making art every day.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. That's such a common story for a lot of the artists, because that's a question that I ask when I do the podcast at the beginning of everyone, asking them how they got into art, because it's always really interesting, the different stories. But something that's really pretty common and pretty typical between artists is that they started at such a young age, and that it was introduced when they were kids and it just became a lifelong passion, that they were trying to seek, is this something I can do as a career? Or is this just a hobby? And it's so beautiful to see them pursue it as a career and pursue it as a passion. So I love that. That's awesome.
Definitely.
So who would you say is your biggest artistic inspiration?
So I think about this a lot, and I think it's such a hard question to answer because I derive inspiration from so much, all kinds of art, not just visual, but music and books, even studying history. But I think right now, my biggest inspiration comes from untrained artists. There's a museum in Baltimore called the Visionary Art Museum, and there's just a insane, enormous variety of different types of art. And it just blows me away, the ambition, just these pieces that people have been working on for their entire lives. And seeing that sort of has always reminded me when I'm creating, it's not really the name of a big famous artist that matters.
Yeah.
It's more your intent, your enthusiasm, and less matters about, a big name of a museum, but somebody could create a work that inspires someone so much, someone like me, that you go home and create your own art inspired by it. So I know it's a really broad category, but it's just something I'm super passionate about. And I think everybody should try and go to that museum once in their life if they can.
Yeah. No, I think that's beautiful. That's amazing. Yeah, and that is so true. So, you're coming up on this class. We're coming up on this class that you'll be instructing. And Lauren she's been instructing for a while, but she's a first-time Bower instructor. So she is new to us, and we are so excited to have her. And she will be doing, like I said, the beginner landscape painting. So Lauren, why landscape painting? What was the inspo behind bringing this class to Bower?
So I would say landscaping is the first type of class that I've painted. Sorry, not painted, but I've taught. And I think it's a really great place to start because there's just so much to learn just about paint and how to mix colors and how to create depth all the stuff that when I first took a painting class, I didn't even know I had to learn, right?
Right, yeah.
And I think landscapes are they're a little more forgiving than doing a portrait.
Mhm,
I think they're more fun than doing a still life because you can sort of bring your own image and do something
mhm.
that you care about, an image that you think is really cool and you want to bring to life. Um, so yeah, I guess that would be my main reasoning behind that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And my next question was going to be, why do you think like what makes landscaping great for like a great starter class for aspiring artists? But you really just answer that is that, it's a little less intimidating and it's more forgiving and there's a little bit more free creativity in there. And not to say that like painting portraits and still lifes can't be fun on its own, but I think if you're just starting and painting, like you need a little bit of more of that wiggle room. So, yeah, I love that. Um,
Mhm,
so what advice would
absolutely.
yeah, what advice would you give someone who might be nervous about signing up for their very first art class?
Yeah, this is something I think about a lot too.
Yeah.
I would say that, like, in my experience, most people that take their first painting classes are a little intimidated.
Mm,
I've had several students of all different ages that come in and they're like, I don't really think I'm a good artist. Like, I think that, somebody next to me is going to do a much better job. My instructor is going to do a better job. Like, my painting won't look like theirs.
mm,
And I think that the main thing to remember is that you're not coming into a class to make a painting that looks just like mine.
mhm,
Um, and on top of that, I would say that sometimes the instructor is nervous too. Sometimes I come into classes and I'm a little nervous, like, am I going to teach these students the things that they want to know? And I really like to emphasize that I'm not all knowing. This is a learning process where we're all like working together to create pieces that display our own style.
mhm.
And a lot of times I learn from my students, which is something that I really love about teaching.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Um, yeah, I think that's amazing advice is like everyone's just as nervous, you know what I mean? Like that kind of takes the edge off knowing that they're
Mhm.
like you're not the only one, like you're not probably not going to go in there and like Picasso is sitting next to you. Like you're going into this beginner class and this might be everyone's first time, it may be someone's second time, but there's not that expectation. Um but it's all going to end up beautiful cuz all art ends up beautiful in its own little way.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree totally.
So, how do you help students find their individual artistic voice even in a structured class like this?
So I would say that once we kind of get started and you put your first strokes on your canvas, I like to walk around and just kind of look and see what people are doing and try and notice like what what types of strokes are they using, what types of colors are they gravitating towards, and kind of talk to them about that and build up their confidence in like the style that seems like they're moving towards. I don't know if that
Mm,
exactly makes sense,
yeah.
but I've walked past students before and seen that they have a really like impressionistic style where maybe it's not like really detailed or really like photorealistic and say, oh, this is super cool. Like all these brushstrokes you're making are so, unique and make your piece have so much depth. And try and get them to hone in on that instead of like trying to be really rigid or,
Mm,
worry that they're not doing it right.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Just really embracing all of that individuality. And I think kind of something that you had mentioned before is like that really reconnects with this point is that not having the pressure of making it look exactly either like yours or the person next to you, or maybe something they saw on the internet or like on Pinterest or something, like not having the pressure and expectation that it's going to look exactly the same. And it shouldn't look exactly the same because we're all individual and unique in the way that we express ourselves in that way, and the way that we kind of interpret that art or whatever. So I think that's a really beautiful thing and definitely very, very encouraging.
Yeah, for sure. And I would also say that like when you're walking through a museum, you're not going there to see a bunch of paintings that all look exactly the same. Like the
Mm,
exciting thing walking through a museum to see art is like how are all these artists interpreting something different? And
Mhm.
that's what we're doing, even as, first time painters.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, how do you balance being an instructor with your own creative pursuits as an artist?
I do a lot of different things. So I produce my own art, and I'm
Mhm.
also a artist in residence and with the city of Roanoke, which is doing more public projects.
Mhm.
And I think I kind of derive inspiration from each of those things. A little bit comes out in all my work.
Mhm.
So all my jobs are kind of part time.
Mhm.
So I'm not a super structured employer, or not self-employer, I guess. Um, so a lot of times when I'm doing my own work, I'll think, what's something I can use from my creative process in my classes? What's something I can use from doing this public work that might be inspiring? So I just kind of try and think about all those things as I'm creating and
Mhm.
sharing work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Lauren, I think we are nearing the end of our episode. Do you have anything you would like to promote? Obviously, this whole thing is just to really let the audience get to know you as a new instructor, as well as promote this upcoming beginner landscape painting class. But is there anything for you personally as an artist that's coming up, or any projects you'd like to share?
Well, right now I have a really big personal project that I've been working on. I don't have a show lined up yet.
Mhm.
Um, I'd love to promote it when I do, but my
Yeah.
goal is to have a solo show. I'm working on a series that incorporates like medical history and folklore.
Yeah.
Um, and all my work is on my website, which is just my name, laurengaunt.com.
Mhm.
And my residency is working towards a big parade in the city of Roanoke called the Daisy Art Parade.
Awesome.
It's not just me working on it, but tons of different people from the community. But that's
Mhm.
going to be happening on May 10th. It's going to be a lot of fun. There'll be lots of big like paper mache puppets and musicians, and it'll be just like a big community like festival kind of.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, definitely make sure to check out Lauren's website. And if you are in either the Lynchburg, Bedford Forest, Roanoke area, make sure to join her on, you said May 10th?
May 10th, yes.
Yep, May 10th over in Roanoke for that awesome event. Well, a huge thank you to you, Lauren, for joining us and sharing your passion for art and teaching. And if you're feeling inspired to explore your creative side, you don't want to miss her beginning landscape painting class at Bauer Center for the Arts. This 3-week class kicks off on Thursday, January 30th, and runs from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's the perfect opportunity to learn the fundamentals of landscape painting in a welcoming, supportive environment. Spots are limited, so head over to bowercenter.org to sign up today. Thank you as always for listening, and we will catch you next time for another Behind the Bower.